Sarah, we've got some live pictures, I think, on the way from the King and Queen's visit to Kenya. It's all about this apology. Undoubtedly, there were things in the past that were appalling. Well, not a political, but I don't know, a tightrope for him to walk, right?
It's exactly the word. Deepest sorrow, but not sorry. I think he went as far as he could without actually apologising. We heard him there talking about the crimes of the past being abhorrent, being inexcusable, unjustifiable, no excuse for them, his deepest regret and sorrow. Even if he wanted personally to say sorry, the King can't, because he's there and he makes that speech on behalf of the government, and all of those words will go through the government, and it's not government policy to apologise. Now, back in 2013, there was a long legal case that led to compensation being paid out, and William Hague, then the Foreign Secretary, again expressed regret. That isn't far enough for many in Kenya. The Kenyan Human Rights Commission this week saying they didn't want these kind of mealy-mouthed statements. They wanted an unequivocal apology. They weren't going to get it, but I did think the language used by the King was as strong as it could be without taking that next step.
But this is a group of people who are fighting for their independence from a colonial rule. There were 1,000 people, just obviously needlessly, hanged back then, and we can't manage an apology. I know a lot of people say, oh, you start apologising for one thing, you've got to apologise for everything, but we're literally talking about the word sorry.
Yes, but it's the word sorry then has greater legal implications and opens you up to calls for reparations, which isn't the government policy, which is why they've stopped short. And look, the King talked about wanting to deepen his understanding. Why this is really important that he gets this right is I think this sets a template for how the royal family deal with these questions throughout the Commonwealth and during those Commonwealth visits.
And it's really interesting because when he came to the throne, when he succeeded his late mother, he has talked, has he not, about a modern monarchy, a more open monarchy, a slimmed-down monarchy, and I'm pretty sure that he would probably, I'm just surmising, tell me if I'm wrong, he probably would want to stand there and apologise. But it is a constitutional monarchy, and he is not in that position. And people have to remember that. I've been strangely surprised by him in the last 12 months.
By his candour, perhaps?
Yes, I imagined, you know, people always talk, don't they, about Charles and the architecture's horrible and all that, whilst he waited for, you know, the only way you're going to get the job you were born to is if and when your mother dies. I think he's shown a degree of real candour and maturity. I know that's a strange thing to say about a 75-year-old man. I think he's done a really good job, and I think it was difficult for him. I'm not condoning anything that happened. It's not his place, is it? It's not his place.
What's interesting, though, about this, and we're talking about wrongs of the past. Actually, this isn't that far in the past,
no.
Is it? We're talking about 1952 to 1960. His late mother had already come to the throne. Her portrait was hanging in some of those detention camps. So this is really uncomfortable territory for Britain and the royal family, and they had to get this right. They couldn't make the same mistakes that they made on the now Prince and Princess of Wales's tour of the Caribbean last year, when we had those throwback colonial images of them dressed in white in the open-top Land Rover. They want to learn, and I think that's what this visit is about.
What's the reception been like away from that? Obviously, that's been the feature in the media. What's their reception been like amongst the Kenyan people?
Pretty warm, a very warm welcome from President Ruto, although he had very strong words in his speech, and he was hinting at calls for further reparations for Kenya, but talking about that future relationship, and that's ultimately what this is about. The King is there on behalf of the government to talk about a future relationship. Trade, climate change, counter-terrorism, all really important issues where Britain wants to work with Kenya in the future.
Really interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it goes further down the line. Do you know